I'm happy to see everyone here. It's amazing. I have so many thumbs up and the video hasn't even started yet. So I love it. So guess what? We are going to be talking about Easter today. And I can't wait. We've never quite done this before. We did do a little bit of research for this, so I'm very excited about that. And let me, of course, first give you some announcements here. You know that the Ash and Ether channel is up and running. So if you have not subscribed yet, go over there and subscribe. The goal is that I'll be able to do live videos like this on as soon as we get to 1,000 subscribers. So that means I need everyone's participation. And of course, we're putting in the work to really try to give as much really good content and put it out there as much as possible. So Ash and Ether needs your support. Kiki Cinza needs your support on this channel. On this channel, we're going to be directing it more towards personal things. So I just put out a video from reviewing one of my sale items. Today, I just wanted you to know I went out shopping again, found some interesting things to review as well. So I'm going to be showing you more of essentially my daily life and how I function. And of course, sprinkling some other stuff in there as well. So it's going to be a nice balance of a little bit of me and a little bit of spirituality. But on Ash and Ether, I'm slowly going to be moving over to talking about spirituality, the occult. But I can't do that yet until we get those subscribers over there. So just letting you know, make sure you do subscribe to Ash and Ether. The more subscribers, the more I'll be able to become live. All right, but let's begin. I just want to welcome everyone first. I'm so happy to know that everyone is here, and I think I saw Rainer already, so people are coming in right now, so welcome. And we're talking about Easter. Oh, and if this is your first time on this channel, please make sure that you tell me. I want to know. Comment, let me know. Like, hey, is this your first time actually watching? And if so, hey, I'm so happy that you're here. And if you have not heard about Ash and Ether, you just heard about it. Go check out that channel. So I'm going to be able to balance out these two things. And then Larisha is doing laundry, so I'm very excited about that. She says something told her to bring her earbuds, and I'm so glad. And that's important. So the reason why I know who comes, they also have ding that notification bell, so make sure you do that. Make sure you're getting notifications for when I do post. You can listen and do laundry at the same time. That's amazing. Okay, so what's up, everyone? We have Rainer here. Happy to see you. We see Larisha. I think I saw Cypher popping in already. Who else do we have? I think so far that's what we have. So good. Now we have more people popping in. So today we are talking about the origins of Easter. And thank you all for the thumbs up. It's amazing. Okay, so this is going to be the icebreaker, and we'll need your participation. Here is the icebreaker. Because I think I've given my announcements. All right, so would you participate in a full moon ritual, sex ritual in nature with your significant other for spring if it promised prosperity for the rest of the year? So what I'm asking you, would you participate in a full moon night ritual with your significant other if it promised you prosperity for the rest of the year? And then this is the other part, that there are no blankets. It must be your bare skin touching the earth, right? So no blankets, no protective barrier. You know, you don't put down a little jacket or anything like that. It is just you, your significant other, the full moon, and the earth and the elements. And you participate in a beautiful ritual. Would you do it? All right, that's the icebreaker. Put it in the comments. If it promised you prosperity for the rest of the year. And this is spring weather. So Rainer says she already has for free, so promise of prosperity, why not? Thank you. And so Rainer, you're saying you did this without any, the caveat here is that you can't put down no blankets. There's nothing, it's just you and the earth and the elements, as you can see. If I had a partner on the same vibe as me, so we're pulling from the same magic game set match. All right. Larisha says she's down. All right. She said she's down. Who else? Would you, I have to ask again, participate in a full moon sex ritual in nature with your significant other with you and the elements, no barrier in between. So it is just you and the elements. Would you do it? Now, of course, you would want to be really clever because I wouldn't want to do this on sand, and I'm just saying that. But I'm not saying where you have to do it. Okay, Ella is saying probably. Oh, but she's still thinking about it. I can tell you guys pretty confidently the answer is yes. Absolutely, why not? This sounds like a very good time. It sounds freaking magical. I love it. So my answer is yes. So we'll see. For those of you all who are watching later, please comment below. Would you participate in that ritual? And I hope you would, because honestly, this is one of the things that so many people are missing right now, today, and last night. Last night, they didn't do this whole thing right, and that's my feeling when it comes to Easter. They didn't really honor the tradition that had been set forth. Instead, they might have been like decorating eggs, which is symbolic of fertility. But it would be nice to participate in this full moon, really, which is a fertility ritual, to bring abundance and prosperity into your life. I feel like that's how you probably want to do it if you really want to honor some traditions. But now it's time for us to get into the actual video here and talk about the topic. We're going to talk about the origins of Easter. Now, if you have any other additional information than what I provide today, I want you to, of course, please put in the comments. I also will tell you that all the research and all of that information, additional research that you can find, we're going to be putting on Patreon. And so if you can't tell, we're creating a nice well-oiled machine over in this ash and ether land, really. And Kiki Cinza is a part of it. All right. So we're going to put that on Patreon, but right now I am going to start talking about that. And one thing I want to say is this. If you want to support on Patreon, one way to do that, we do have different tiers now. And so as this develops, we're going to be also fleshing out which each tier will offer. Okay, so you can decide, but we will be putting on this research information, things you can look at deeper over on Patreon. Okay, so here we go. And then, let me see, I think Cypher just responded here. We definitely participate in some forest loving for prosperity indeed. I feel like us, the Shiny Ashes, read a book about that before. And there was some forest loving, but they messed it up. And I got really pissed off, which is why I didn't like that book. Do you guys remember that? Shiny Ashes, you know what I'm talking about. There was a book that we had to read, and there was forest loving in there, and I got so pissed off because they ruined the forest loving. So clearly my answer was going to be yes. That essentially I almost said throw the whole book away because they messed up on that scene in the writing. Oh, yes. It's a pretty popular book, by the way. It's a really cool, magical book, and I really disliked the entire book. I'm serious. I disliked the entire book because of that moment. So, anyway, if anyone, we could say who the book is. What was the book? It was Children of Blood and Bone. For the most part, everyone else loved the book. I just want that to be clear. I am very sensitive about how you're going to handle forest loving, and it was butchered. Okay, I didn't see the other books or read the other books, but it doesn't matter. The great writing. It was great that the story was even done. Okay, all right. So now let me go through this now. So the origins of Easter. So where shall we begin? Where shall we begin? So we can talk about this. Let's talk about the beginning. Was it Easter at first? So Easter is set around the time, it's the first Sunday in Christianity after the full moon, after the spring equinox, right? So the spring equinox happened, and now the first full moon happens, and then now you will have Easter. Now, it's the same concept for what else? Passover, right? Passover, also called Pascha. So Passover and Pascha, we know Passover comes from Judaism, right? And so we have to do a little kind of research here. Why is it Easter and why is it not called Passover? Well, there had to be a separation between the two. So now let's go deeper into why. Now, Easter really isn't really found in the Bible too much. I think that there might be one reference, if there is even a single reference of actually using Easter. But there are some other references that are there very clearly. But we're jumping ahead. So let's go to the Council of Nicaea in 325 AD. We had Constantine. The Council of Nicaea, if you're not familiar, this was essentially coming together in the efforts to legalize Christianity. In order to legalize Christianity, they wanted to make some very clear differences between Judaism and Christianity. So this is why you have a different day that the ceremony, what is it called? Church, it commences, right? Which is on Sunday. And this is also why you have something that, even though you kind of know it's Passover, it's not. Now, if you look at other cultures, you have something called Shimu, which is the ancient Egyptian celebration. People offered salt fish, okay? They offered lettuce and onions to their deities, which is similar. So that actually goes before Passover, right? Which is similar to the modern day Passover. So if you Passover they typically have chivelta fish, right? There's like a whole ceremony and plate, but they will offer very similar things. There's a bitter aspect to it, and this is also the time where Jews remember, or they have a memory of some sort of slavery, okay, and how hard they were working. And I've seen performances done by people who are not very melanated depicting their slavery experience. Very awkward. But anyway, this is a part of the magic of Judaism, right? It's a part of the reason why Judaism exists. So it's important to recognize that without that, it takes away a lot of the reasoning for why they do what they do. So it's a foundational aspect of Judaism. So therefore, somehow they needed Passover to be erased and Easter to be a foundational aspect of Christianity, right? And so we know that when we think of Easter, some people try to change the title to Resurrection Sunday. They have tried that, but we all know that that's not the way this religion was legalized, meaning people were now allowed to practice it, and it can become the dominant culture. And that was from Constantine in 325 AD. So right now, if you haven't paid attention, this religion is literally being made up. The rules of it have been made up. So why was it that they decided to keep some of certain kind of rituals and certain things that we know seem a little off, like the bunnies and the eggs? And why? Why would they keep that? Well, that was because Constantine himself never really bought into Christianity. So his coin that he had that was spread out around that time still had the deity called Mithras on it, or the Sol Invictus, the unconquered god. And this is what he actually believed in, okay? But you're wondering, when was Mithras's birthday? Oh, December 25th. So essentially what you're seeing, Christianity and the holidays are all built upon, one, we know it's pagan rituals, but also Mithras and different pagan or pre-ideas before Christianity, right? And so Constantine said this can only happen if we follow these rules. I will allow Christianity to be legal if we essentially do it around this time. Now, they also will say this was because they wanted to make sure that the people would easily assimilate to it. But it's not just that they were trying to make sure other people will easily assimilate to it. They were making sure that essentially their ideas and values and Constantine was still there somewhere. So this was a way. He took Christianity and made sure that his values were still thrown in there somewhere. So when you celebrate the birth of Jesus on the 25th, you're actually kind of celebrating the birth of Mithras on the 25th. When you when you celebrate, thank you so much. And when you celebrate Easter, you are celebrating the celebration of, we're getting to it, but Easter, Esther, Ishtar, Astarte, or Ashtaroth. Okay. Now, if I don't say those names correctly, it's because I didn't live in that time. So you'll just have to excuse me. But we'll go through these different deities and these names. Now, you can kind of liken with those four names, or was it how many names I just said? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Those 5 names, you can kind of liken it to Maria, Mary, or Marie. It's a similar name, but different languages will essentially present it in a different way. So the deity that really is being celebrated on Easter, if you go forth, now Easter or Esther, that's more the West Germanic god, right, for spring. Ishtar is, now we're getting closer to this deity that is in the Bible, right? Ishtar and Astarte. Ishtar is called the Queen of Heaven. The Queen of Heaven is referenced in the Bible pretty heavily. And then we have Astarte, and then of course we have Ashtaroth. Now Ashtaroth is of course the Hebrew name of Astarte. Ishtar is the name that's also of Astarte, and Astarte is what? A Babylonian goddess, and also known as the Queen of Heaven. So Astarte and Ishtar kind of interchangeable there. Now I want to go back here, because I was provided a wonderful little moment here. It's important to know that The Sol Invictus, meaning the invincible sun. The invincible sun. Now, how many times have we heard that transposed? The Son of God and the King of Kings. And I mean, are you picking up what I'm putting down? The Sol Invictus, the invincible sun. The struggle for deathlessness must be free. Right? So now we're talking, this comes from the Emperor Constantine, who legalized Christianity in ancient Rome. As story is told, he was preparing for a great battle with Maxentius to gain control of the western portion of the empire, and considering what power to rely on for protection. So for what he wanted for protection, he would look towards what? The unconquered God. He could look to the many deities or a single God Almighty, as presented by Christianity. He decided to claim one, right? A radiant cross above the sun. By this sign conquer. And so essentially everything you see is a symbolic of, what is it, everyone? The Sol Invictus, the invincible sun, Mithras. Absolutely nothing to do with Jesus. Okay, so now that you understand that, and that these were the real origins, now let's get to Easter. Let's get to the Easter of it all, right? I know in many ways we also want to figure out where Jesus fits in, but we'll try to find a way. All right, so Easter, Esther, Ishtar, Astarte, Astaroth, right? So we know that this is essentially the same name for the same deity, the Queen of Heaven. Now, the Queen of Heaven was referenced very heavily in the Bible. Now, you're wondering where? Okay, well, we'll give you some scriptures to get excited about. All right, so let me read these. You have Jeremiah. This is heavy in Jeremiah. Now, this is a fun fact, everyone. Very fun fact. When I first started doing these videos, one of the first scriptures that someone quoted was a quote from Jeremiah. Now, this quote was definitely out of context, and so I decided to read into it, right? So I just read all of Jeremiah. You don't want to leave it behind. I'm like, well, listen, I'm not in the church, right? So I'm not going to be the kind of person who's going to take one scripture and then just say, well, this is it. I had to read what was before and what was after. And then I got deeper and I found out there was a Queen of Heaven. I'm like, a Queen of Heaven? Who is she? And why is this deity so upset? Well, let's talk about it. So the children gather wood, the fathers, this is Jeremiah 7:18. The children gather wood, the fathers kindle the fire, and the women knead dough to make cakes for, what are they making an offering for? The Queen of Heaven. And they pour out drink offerings to other gods, that they may provoke me to anger. So this is the God of the Bible being pissed off that people are essentially gathering wood, kindling the fire, kneading dough, and making cakes for the Queen of Heaven and pouring out offerings, right? And so then we go here. This dude is pissed off. He keeps on getting mad. So essentially, he has said that, you know, if you keep on worshiping this Queen of Heaven, I'm not going to give you anything, and it's really provoking me to anger. Remember, this was a jealous God. So Jeremiah 44:17-19. But we will certainly do whatever has gone out of our mouth to burn incense to the Queen of Heaven and pour out drink offerings to her, as we have done. We and our fathers, our kings, our princes, in the cities of Judah, in the streets of Jerusalem. For then we had plenty of food, were well off, and saw no trouble. But since we stopped burning incense to the Queen of Heaven and pouring out drink offerings to her, we have lacked everything and have been consumed by the sword and by famine. So essentially, they're saying we are doing this because this is what brought us prosperity, right? These rituals in the forest. I mean, you can go to the forest if you want, but you know what I'm saying? So these rituals brought them prosperity. We are going to continue to do so because this is what brings us prosperity. Prosperity, when you think about this, has a lot to do with the symbol of fertility. Right? Fertility is about prosperity. It's about abundance. It's about creating more, right? It's about two people coming together and then creating more. It's about, if you think about that, it talks about any two life can come together and then what more is created from that? Abundance, right? So when forces come together, abundance comes. So therefore, when you do your rituals, when you're putting all that energy forth, this was all about prosperity, fertility, renewal, having more of crops. We're getting there, right? Ooh, Alyssa says the riches of life. Say that. All right. So we keep going forward. But since we stopped burning incense to the Queen of Heaven, which is Ishtar, all right, Ishtar or Astarte or Astaroth, Easter. We lacked everything. So then the women also said, and when we burn incense to the Queen of Heaven and pour drink offerings to her, did we make cakes for her to worship her and pour out drink offerings to her without our husband's permission? No, they didn't do that, right? No, this was all of common practice. Thus, the Lord of hosts, the God of Israel, saying, this is Jeremiah 44 to 25. You and your wives have spoken with your mouths and fulfilled with your hands, saying, we will surely keep our vows that we have made to burn incense to the Queen of Heaven and pour out drink offerings to her. You will surely keep your vows and perform your vows. He's upset. How dare you? All right. So as this goes on, and this, you guys will have to read it for yourself, but essentially he is damning these people. He's upset, he's angry, and essentially saying, I will take everything away from you because you are worshiping the Queen of Heaven, a deity, a goddess, and you are putting more energy into her than me. Right? So this is how you have people afraid of the goddess. This is how you have people afraid of the power of any kind of female or feminine energy. This is how people are disturbed by it. Same Christians who do this also practice and worship what? Easter. They have the eggs out. There's Easter baskets. You get dressed up and all of that. And this was put in place so that this religion could be legal and be a dominant power and essentially be the symbol of conquering other people. All right. Now, Kings 11:15. For Solomon went after Ashtoreth, the goddess of Sidonians, and after Milcom, the abomination of the Ammonites. Kings 23:13. Then the king defied the high places that were east of Jerusalem, that were on the south of the Mount of Corruption, which Solomon the king of Israel had built for Ashtoreth, the abomination of the Sidonians, for Chemosh, and the abomination of the Moabites, and for Milcom, the abomination of the people of Ammon. So essentially, this whole Bible talks about getting rid of any memory, any symbolism of worshiping a female deity. Also, this so-called male deity could be worshipped. Now, it is true, and this is something you can do research on. Originally, the Bible didn't have a male deity. It was a female deity from the beginning, right? Then it changed over, making it kind of gender neutral. And Jews still try to, on some level, keep it gender neutral. And then it became a male deity. Right now, in all this process, what you see is something filled with violence. It's filled with taking away, and Mengita says basically the Sibyls. Yes, it's about taking away feminine power, and it's about essentially stripping it all away. So then in comes Constantine in 325 AD and says, okay, I'm going to ignore what's in this whole place, and we're still going to essentially worship Easter, Esther, Ishtar, Astarte, Ashtoreth on the Sunday after the first full moon after the equinox. And so then here you are, and you're in the midst of what is called Easter. So now, let's have fun here. There's a part here. One thing I have to say, you have to be clear, Constantine would not legalize Christianity without the inclusion of these sun god rituals and symbols. So in order for it to be legalized, this was essentially the conditions. This had to be there. This is what was most important. And every year, twice a year, we celebrate these things. So where does Jesus fit into all of this? How can we fit into this in some way, shape, or form? Well, Ishtar, Astarte, Ashtoreth, we already figured out with Mithras, there's a symbolism there, right? The unconquered sun. We all figured that part out, right? Well, Ishtar, what happened to her at some point? Well, she was hung. She was hung naked on a stake, and then she was subsequently resurrected to Samaria. Does that sound familiar to everyone or no? How does that sound? How do you see the connection there? Kayla has written here, behold, I will watch over them for evil and not for good. All the men of Judah that are in the land of Egypt shall be consumed by the sword and by famine until there be an end of them. So essentially, anyone that was still worshiping, thank you, Kayla, anyone who was still worshiping, this is what's going to happen to your butt. So that was as you go further into Jeremiah. All right. So if Ishtar was hung on a stake and then subsequently resurrected and ascended from the underworld, Samaria, that's interesting. Do we see a connection there? Resurrection. You are celebrating the goddess Ishtar, Astarte, Ashtoreth, and this is about the resurrection. Then we're also talking about this newness, fertility, prosperity. And remember, the Queen of Heaven, when you burnt incense to the Queen of Heaven, when you burnt incense to and gave offerings and made those beautiful Easter Sunday meals, and that we think those meals, and you did these wonderful things, right? And you celebrated fertility with the symbolism. In this situation, we have allowed bunnies and eggs to essentially be that symbol. Anytime you do a ritual, you typically have a symbol that celebrates that. We also have to remember lamb was a big part of the Passover ritual, right? That a lamb was killed, an animal sacrifice was killed for Passover to celebrate, to honor that time as well. But we're going more towards Easter now. So to celebrate all of that, all this is connected, right? It's about fertility, right? So it'd be easy to connect Jesus to a symbol that also was hung and resurrected, which is Ishtar. Now there's also, we go further back, we also have Horus. Horus too died and was resurrected. So another symbol of death and rebirth. Well, also look at the spring equinox, right? Hello, if you look at tulips, if you look at daffodils, some of my favorite, anything with a bulb, how is it that they're able to produce a flower? Well, they go through the death of winter, right? So the death of winter goes underground, right? There's darkness underground. Oh, this is my favorite part. You know, I love flowers. If you didn't know, now you know. There's darkness underground, and then there's a freeze. And once that bulb gets that freeze, what's allowed to happen is that now those flowers can emerge for spring. Okay? So there's a death that has to happen to that bulb in order for the rebirth to happen. Okay? So we look at these gods, right? And the history, there is a death that has to happen for the rebirth. This is a natural part of life and the symbolism that we've all been surrounded by. Ooh, I got chills. So, as we put it all together, when you celebrate Easter, is this the reason why we search for fertile eggs in the forested area? Well, doesn't it make sense that you would go on a search for fertility? And what happens when kids open up those eggs, right? They actually get treasures. They actually get symbolisms of wealth, sweets, right? Something wonderful. They get a wonderful gift because you are celebrating and participating in the ritual of newness. Right? And so if you just look at the season from winter to spring, it's symbolic of that death and to rebirth, right? And that so many of these plants that we start to see flower essentially have to feel that frost, have to feel that death in order to be as beautiful as they are in the spring, to give life and nourishment and everything, right? And then we also know that the deities also essentially represented that. And so then when people did worship them, they gave and gave and gave so that they may see abundance. And this was the celebration of all of that. So as we go through all of this, we realize that Easter is really the celebration of a Babylonian goddess that was condemned in the Bible. I don't know why that's funny. I think it's kind of funny. You know, my friend told me this morning, she told her kids what Easter was, and they got a kick and laugh out of it too. And now here I am, and I already knew what I was going to be talking about, and I'm just laughing away. That's funny. So we see the journey. We see it all. It's a celebration of a Babylonian goddess. All because Constantine essentially wanted to legalize Christianity, but under his terms. And this has gone on since 325 AD, the Council of Nicaea. That's deep that this was allowed to go on this long. All right? That is deep. All right. So with that being said, I think we finished that part of the video. I want to go to our moment of skepticism. Because where do the bunnies and the eggs fit in? Well, we already know that, bunnies and eggs and all of that, it's a symbol, right? It's a symbol of if you understand any kind of ritual, you will use symbolism, right? So this bunny, we all know that bunnies are very, very prolific in bringing forth life. Okay. Bunnies are about abundance. Anytime I've had dreams about abundance, there's a whole bunch of bunnies. I have dreams of lands of bunnies. But this becomes a really interesting question. Is the Easter bunny a real spirit or deity? And then there's also another question of where do they come from? Well, if you read the book of Water and the Spirit, if you've been watching this channel long enough, you know that even in African culture, bunnies, rabbits do have that symbol. There's a symbol of prosperity, but also of knowledge and also of abundance, right? But so it's also been a sacred animal, and it's been a sacred animal in different places. You have, of course, the year of the rabbit in Chinese culture, and then you also have what's also called the cantombili. Now, in the Water and the Spirit, Patrice Malidoma Sommet talks about encountering a bunny, one of the first kind of gatekeepers and openers of knowledge to him when he was a kid. So he's a little child and he chased a bunny. And of course, what came forth from after him following that bunny was a spirit called the cantombili. And the cantombili was essentially giving him information and knowledge and is also telling him what he needed to do. Okay. So we know that this is an important symbol in cultures altogether. So it would not be unusual for bunnies to be symbolic of nature, fertility, sex, right? We've also heard different terms, and some people might have experienced sexual relations that you may think feel bunny-like. I've heard that before. Then, this is my brothers and I have many fights over our lucky rabbit foot. We've seen this as well. I think we've seen this in hoodoo, and I know quite a few people were raised with a lucky rabbit foot to symbol luck, fertility, and abundance. I, too, had a rabbit foot. Don't know what happened to that rabbit foot. Along with my family, we did decorate and color the eggs of these beautiful colors. Now, when you think about spring colors represent the flowers that are in bloom. Those flowers that are in bloom, everyone, it's connected to exactly what we talked about. Those flowers that actually have to go through a certain kind of death in order to bloom. Right? So your hyacinths, and if you guys have been to Trader Joe's, at least my Trader Joe's is like this, they've been selling them throughout the season over and over again. So you've seen your hyacinths, your lilacs, your hyacinths, your tulips, and your daffodils. You've been seeing them. But the reason why they're blooming for you now is because they went through that death. Now, if I wanted to try to revive that bulb, I literally have to put it in darkness, right? And put it in the cold. And then once that coldness hits it, almost like it's dying, then that frost, as it goes away, gives it new life. Right? So when we think about Easter colors, it's a celebration of those colors that essentially come forth from that death. So from the colors to the eggs to the bunnies, it's all about abundance. It's all about fertility. It's all about death and rebirth. That's kind of dope, right? And we know eggs. Now, if you haven't watched the video that I made for Umancy on Ashen Ether, you should watch it. It is actually something that I recommend you doing. Now, bad magic, if you don't know, when I do a bad magic video, it's meant to be a joke. It's not actually supposed to work, but the thing is that I'm committed to actually doing these spells. So whether it was bad or good, I'm still going to do it. And so I made this spell up on the fly. I did not know what the hell I was doing, but it made sense. I kind of based off of any kind of knowledge that I had about anything. Umancy does not happen in that video, to be honest. Umancy is actually the It's a divination of eggs. So you look at the eggs and you try to divine what the egg is telling you. That did not happen. I pretended that it happened. It didn't. But what I did do in that video is I did an actual ritual, and I used eggs as a symbolism for that ritual. And in doing that, it was very, very, very powerful. It was all about a new me. It was about rebirth. And I did it essentially around the time of the equinox, around spring, kind of moving forward. I mean, all this stuff I was doing, but I really wasn't paying attention to what I was doing. I just did it. And everything I did symbolically was really amazing because I said at the time, don't have any feathers, right? I took the feathers out, but the moment I started to see this actual spell working, it was when I started to see feathers popping up everywhere. All of a sudden, feathers kept on popping, an abundance of feathers. It became the symbolism for it. So it's just interesting. This is a very magical time of year. And so if you are curious about doing a spell that was meant to be a joke, I'm not kidding, it was meant to be a joke, but I did it. And the big thing about doing something that's meant to be a joke, kind of silly, you have not attachment to it. So when you release that attachment, you do allow magic to be exactly what it's going to be. All right. So anyway, it's all connected to here. It was meant to be an April Fool's joke, but it ended up being a wonderful gift to me. And just like you're celebrating Easter, if you so want to, you are celebrating an ancient ritual that is all about fertility. It's all about abundance. It's all about prosperity. Maybe now, if you do it with intention, when you cook and when you use all of that, you might really enjoy it. And you realize it has very little to do with Jesus. All right, now let's get to it. Is the Easter Bunny, moment of skepticism for real? Is the Easter Bunny a spirit or a deity? My answer is yes. I'm going to say yes. I feel, and honestly, I really do feel that we do create our spirits and our deities in many ways. I've said this before. I've said that Oshun is an evolving deity, meaning that if you look at someone like Erzuli Freda, these deities that were literally created, they were literally created according to the time. How could we not see that the Easter Bunny is also a deity, right? Symbolic of that. Now, to me, I'm not going to allow the Easter Bunny to just be a deity singularly on its own. I think the Easter Bunny is probably a physical example and representation of Ishtar, right? So that's how I see it. I think it's a real example or a physical representation of Ishtar. It's called the Easter Bunny, or a symbol of her power, right? Of her, of what she stands for. So that's how I see it, almost as an avatar. I see the Easter Bunny as an avatar of Ishtar. Yeah. And that's what I think. So what do you all think? Do you think no? Throw the Easter Bunny away altogether? Oh, I reached too far? Or could it be so? I'm like, why wouldn't it be? I mean, that's how I see it. The whole time, this is what the celebration is. So why wouldn't it be? Why wouldn't it be an avatar of Ishtar? Which makes me more interested in that because my mother was born on Easter. And so she always wanted to be called Bunny Princess. That was supposed to be her real nickname, but her older sister said her name is Sister, so that actually became her nickname. But my mom has never forgotten that she is Bunny Princess. And how amazing is it that she's connected so much of who she is to this amazing deity that's all about wealth and abundance. I mean, how amazing is that? Whether she knows it or not, and she is someone who has manifested a lot in her life. So it's beautiful that she's kept that energy, whether she's realized it or not. So, all right, that is what I have to say. And now the last bit of this. So is the Easter Bunny a real spirit or deity? I think that the Easter Bunny is a avatar of Ishtar. And so therefore, I say yay. And that every time you see the Easter Bunny, that's what you're seeing. Just as the candomblé were spirits connected to the larger whole. You see what I'm saying? So the candomblé in Benin, or the Dagara people who have them, but you also see it in South African people. There were two books that we read, one from South Africa and one from Benin, and they both have these small little spirits that come in that are typically found in nature, and associated with rabbits at first, and they all are a bit of like messengers. And so I can see that, right? That kind of messenger spirit. And so that's how I see it. All right. It's all there. And you have to realize we use the word Babylonia and Chaldean and all of that, but we also know that we're just talking about a whole bunch of deeply melanated people doing melanated things. But all right, let's do our thing. All right. Perhaps a Edelin, since many children are imagining it to be real. Ooh, I like that. But so this is fun. This is fun. If you go back to the Book of Water and Spirit, he talks about from a child that he's seeing it. Are they imagining it to be real, or is it really happening? All right, so let's pull the cards. Let's put their energy for this next season, for this next week. So I will, of course, be coming on here every week. And then as we build up Ash and Ether over there, then I will eventually move this party over to Ash and Ether. But this is we figured out, this is season 3 of me doing Sunday videos. And this is episode 1. So working on doing that now, making sure that everything has episodes. And we're just getting it together. If you haven't figured out, I'm committed to growing and growing this channel, growing everything that I'm doing, and having a great time here over in the YouTubes and in the world. So therefore, I'm just happy about this. So last thing we're going to do is pull a card. And I will do whoever puts the first question that I understand. Because sometimes, I think last time I did this, someone just said ancestors. I don't need just ancestors. I need a real question. I'll do a quick reading for someone. And then right now I am pulling the energy of the week. So if you put a question that I understand, a clear question, you don't need to be mysterious. I'm not into those things of like, what's my energy right now? I mean, okay. I mean, that one's not that bad. But I still think that's always weird when people do that. But you know what? I'm not going to judge you. Do what you want to do. But just make a clear question. I will answer that. But in the meantime, this is the energy of the week. And this is going to be its influencing factors. Energy of the week is first eye, third eye, use it. And then metamorphosis is the factor. So changes are afoot. And so it looks like there's shifts and changes being afoot. Make sure that you are using your first eye or third eye, whatever you want to call it, and use it. That's why it's that way. First eye, third eye, use it. It's kind of a joke when people are like, you must use your third eye. And then you have the more conscious people coming in and saying, oh, no, it's your first eye. Whatever order you want it, just use it. And so that's what this that's what this is about. Make sure that you are paying attention and really using your intuition to see beyond the surface, right? And follow it. And that's because changes are afoot, right? And you'll know which way to go. That's the best part about it. All right. Rainer has the first question. All right. And so therefore Rainer's going to get the reading, and then I can't. And then Alyssa, I may squeeze something in as long as I can keep it within the hour. Okay. All right. So as long as I can keep within an hour, which I probably can. So no more than that. I'm only working with Rainer and Alyssa here. Okay. So let's see. Does my heart think I'm resisting our communication? So we want to know the relationship between Rainer and her heart. So that's what we'll do. We'll figure out your heart status. We'll figure out your status. And then we'll figure out the energy between it two. I know it's a really deep. I'm trying to figure out how to like put the cards out right. But I'm going to make it a relationship kind of vibe here. So we're going to figure out the status of her heart. Then we're going to figure out her. So that means her mind. Right? I think that's kind of what's happening here. Because it's about heart and mind. So there we go. So this is the heart, this is the mind, and this is what the factors are in between it. Okay, so the heart status is clear path ahead. So that means your heart is clear. Okay, everything is clear. This is the status of your heart. And then you is it was good while it lasted, which means something has ended. Okay, so your heart is moving forward, and for you, something has ended, and there's a certain level that you should have an appreciation for it. Now, the thing in between is this. Oh, this is deep. And so the relationship we have between your heart and your mind is this. From the nipple to the bottle, you're never satisfied. And that means it's time to mature and create what you want. So there is a communication. You already knew the answer there. There clearly is a communication issue between between the heart and the mind. And that is this feeling of not being satisfied, maybe with your heart's desires. But your heart is clear. So what it tells me is that you need to mature, right, and create what you want. So from the nipple to the bottle, never satisfied, is typically also referring to kind of being childlike in things, right? So meaning no matter what's being given to you, it's not enough. It's not enough. It's not enough. This was a song that was created by by who's that wonderful, beautiful woman? Pull up to my bumper, baby. You guys know who that is. But it's about never being satisfied, never being satisfied. Something has ended on your end, and there should be a certain level of appreciation for it, but now you actually have to trust your heart. So it sounds to me that it's time to mature and create what you want. You have to mature. Patra. It's not Patra. It's the original person of the song. And for some reason I can't remember who it is. She's Strange from the classic Coming to America. Come on, everyone. You guys know who that is. All right. So that should give you your reading. Clear path ahead. Your heart is clear. No confusion. It's you. And that means that for some reason, no matter what's being given to you, you're not satisfied with it. Grace Jones. Thank you so much. So Grace Jones is the one that wrote that song. So there you are. Okay. Let's see. How can we move forward? We'll pull that card right here. Nice and steady. So this is how you can move forward. Nice and steady. Just take your time. You know, you have to mature, you have to grow, but now you have to just move nice and steady. When you have a heart that's this settled, this clear, there's no reason not to follow it. So now we're going to go over to Alyssa. You are welcome. Okay. I love these cards. I really do. And I just feel like I could just read the cards, have a good old time, mind my own business, and go home after that. All right. Am I getting this manager position I applied for? Let's find out. Am I getting this manager position I applied for? We'll see. She wants to know. There's a prediction here. I don't know. Am I getting this manager position? Is she getting the manager position she applied for? Is she? So let's start getting the manager. One more time, I will do that for her then. Is she getting the manager position that she applied for? Let's find out. All right, cut it. All right, so this one is the position. So let's find out the energy of the position, okay? And this is you in relationship to the position. Here's the contributing factor. So the energy of the position in general in your world here is called divine intervention. So you got greeting. So therefore, there is something divinely intervening with this position, and that's the energy of it. So it says greetings, divine intervention. Ancestors are playing a heavy role in this process here, okay? This is your energy here. Go all in. So your energy says go all in, okay? And then, of course, in this process, the relationship between all of this, this is funny. It says for you, so your energy is go all in. The energy of the thing is a divine intervention. And then in between, a contributing factor is called, it says slow down. So what that tells me is that you're roaring and ready to go. Whatever is happening with this position, it is divinely intervened. But you need to slow your roll and slow it down. So that means calm down. So this must have been like a slow process and this even happening. But it still seems that you want to take your time and slow down. Something like this, what this really tells me is that sometimes when you are progressing into a new place, into a new position, it's almost like the grass. You always think the grass is greener on the other side. And I was watching this person who's kind of like a country kind of person, and she says, yeah, the grass is greener on the other side because there's more SHIT over there. I'm not saying that's the situation here, but what I am saying is that it does make sense to take your time and move into anything with a certain level of just keeping it slow, paying attention, and slowly stepping into the role versus jumping into the role, right? Because your energy is go, 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 go. Over here, there's some divine intervention happening, right? So therefore, what it tells me is that you need to chill just a little bit, all right? Just a little bit and chill because of whatever is happening here. It means that it's supposed to happen in a way that needs to happen. It's going to happen the way it's supposed to happen, not according to a frenzy on your part. Okay? Does that make sense? I hope so. All right, there you go. I know I really like these cards. All right, tell me the results of all that. That's what it says. And I will see you all. I will see you all next week. New topic, new energy. I'm so happy that you all are here. Like I said, subscribe to Ash and Ether. You're going to find more research on the Patreon. And I will see you all next next week. All right. Hallelujah, Hallelujah Magic, Io and Vunya, and peace out. I'm glad you appreciate that, Alyssa.